Super Rugby Pacific, the final game of the round, saw the Brumbies hosting the Force. Brumbies get the win, but boy, did they leave it late. This was a really tense game. Kind of a game of two halves. Brumbies had a bunch of territory and possession and whatnot the first half. Second half. Force had the better of the first half. But anyway, I'll go through some key events, some stats, and you guys can let me know your thoughts. It was certainly one of the more entertaining games of the round. Like yesterday, you saw the Reds and the Rebels play out that game in the second half in the absolute piddling rain. Whereas here, you're in Canberra, and it was a peach of a day. I mean, it seemed bloody hot, to be fair. I'm surprised Ala Alatoa played like 75 odd minutes in this one for a big prop to be running around that much time in these conditions is mighty impressive from the Brumbies captain. But decent crowd, good day for it, and they were treated to a pretty entertaining match, and they'll probably go home with a smile on their faces, the home fans anyway, because the Force almost got them, but there's nothing quite like leaving the ground as a home fan when your side has just won it at the death. The Force scrum actually looked alright early, but then it kind of started getting monstered, which was a bit of a problem throughout the game. Well, to be fair, penalties were conceded both ways at scrum time. The Force's jersey is a bit of a slick looking one as well. In the battle of the jerseys this weekend, I think the Force one is right up there. The Brumbies got a second scrum penalty. Well, the second scrum penalty, which was the first one went the Force's way, second one Brumbies' way, so it was a bit of a mixed bag. Tom Wright, who ends up getting man of the match, he had a few standout moments in this one. I mean, he gets on the scoreboard, but also he keeps in an attempted Force touch finder, when he's really got no rights to be keeping that ball in, very athletic stuff. So, yeah, he was absolutely fighting for every inch in this game. So it was a proper beauty. First points of the game go to the Force. 14 minutes in, Ian Pryor knocks over a penalty. So good for the Force to get that wee lead away from home. But there was kind of a trend in this game for the Force to score points and then the Brumbies to score right back. So that happens when the Brumbies get the first try. It is through Tom Wright. They opt for touch instead of going for the poles. And Noah Lolosio fakes a pass left when they're on the attack, and he passes right. He goes to Tom Wright, and he's well through. He's drawn his man. Really well worked. 7 points to 3. The Brumbies were under pressure in their own 22. The Force tried a pretty bloody slick line-out move. It had 3 passes involved to it before Anstey drives over, but they ruled that he's held up, which is a pretty unfortunate one because that line-out move deserved a try. It had them bamboozled, but not enough that Anstey could get the ball over the whitewash. Well, he could get it over, but he couldn't get it down. Force got another penalty though in 26 minutes to make it 7-6, and I thought the Force's scrum by that point was kind of getting monstered. They gave away a scrum penalty pretty much in front, so the Brumbies made it 10-6. But that being said, the Brumbies, maybe trying to push too much, lost their footing on a scrum right before half-time. The Force kicked that one, so it was 10 points to 9 at half-time, so only a 1-point game. But interestingly, look at the stats. The Force have got 68% possession, 62% territory. Their line-outs is 7 out of 7 in that first half. Things are going well for the Force. Whereas the Brumbies, like I said, no possession, no territory. Well, much less. You can work out the maths for that one. But their knock-ons are 8-3. It's just not going well for the Brumbies. Clean breaks, though, interestingly, 3-0 to the Brumbies in that first half. So the Brumbies have had less ball. When they've got the ball, they're knocking it out. Their line-out's 5 from 9. And yet they've still managed to generate 3 clean breaks. And that's been one issue with the Force last year as well. They get heaps of defenders beaten, so they're aiming for the man, not necessarily for the space. But very rarely do they cut teams open so they get that clean break. I'll have to run some stats at some point to generate a ratio between clean breaks and tries, but I feel like clean breaks often lead to tries. I mean, that doesn't take a rocket scientist to work that one out. So the Force are tryless in that first half and they haven't got any clean breaks. Is that a coincidence? I don't think so. But I mean, the Force have been making the Brumbies work for it. I mean, the Force have made 25 tackles. The Brumbies are at 105 by half time. So, the Brumbies would need to pick it up in the second half. And they did, to be fair. I mean, the Force start the second half with a line break, thank goodness. Mata'ele gets a big line break, first one of the game for them. And the Force hands kept the ball alive. They did get that try through Tony Pulu. So, I mean, line break, couple of phases later leads to try. These things kind of seem to compute. As I said, I've not done the stats on it for any competition, but maybe that's one that we can look at in future because I'm pretty sure there's a correlation. But yeah, 16 points to 10, the Force in front. Brumbies hit back though. Of course, it's a maul, and it's only a few minutes later. This is what I'm talking about. Like when the Force scored, the Brumbies scored 43-47. Right later on, 76-79. Like it's just a brutal one for the Force, but. Yeah, it's the maul. The maul was pretty brutal. 17-16, and then again, well, the first one was Fainga, the next one was Scott, and yeah, it was 22-16. They missed the conversion on the second one. Interestingly, the Force didn't contest that second one in the air. They tried to set for the maul, and at the way they tried to stop it, you might as well have just gone for the air, and if you don't get it in the air, maybe just concede that it's going to be a try, because even when setting for it, didn't seem to do a heck of a lot of good. That being said, you got to give credit to the Brumbies. Like they were a lot better in the second half. They were kind of living off scraps in that first half. As I was kind of writing a note, there's not been many chances for the Force in the second half. They finally start to get some carries over the advantage line when they've got some pill in the late second half, and kind of out of nowhere, McIntyre, I think it's Ferguson Warner, my man, offloads it from the deck. And there's been a few good phases before that, but yeah, the final steps is an offload from the deck and McIntyre going over for a try on 76 minutes. The conversion goes over to make it 23-22 with like 2 minutes to go. But wouldn't you know it, the Brumbies pretty much hit straight back, and it's an amazing hit back. Banks, I think, draws a man, gets it to Samu, who gets it to right. They get it back to Lonergan, who finishes it off. And yeah, the Brumbies end up winning it right at the death. So there is time for a restart, but there's kind of nothing doing for the Force. So yeah, that's a heartbreaker for Force fans. But as I said, like you'll be properly chuffed if you're a Brumbies fan going home after that one. So yeah, it was a really entertaining game, man. What do you want? You want a game which goes down to the last couple of minutes and there's a try, you know, at the death to swing the result. But yeah, as a neutral, pretty fun game to watch, pretty entertaining. Run meters finished 355 to 348, so very tight. Possession finishes 55-45 to the Force, 53-47 is the territory. But second half, Brumbies possessions 57, Brumbies territories 55. So like I said, they did look better. They got some possession, which is what Dan McKellar wanted in that second half, and they made decent use of it. Clean breaks finish 7-1. 7-1. So, you know, tries is 4-2. Correlation? Maybe. I don't know. One day I'll run stats. Defenders beaten though 15-8. That's in favour of the Force. So they're able to break some tackles. It's about, I don't know, converting the subsequent chance from there though. Clean breaks just tend to be more deadly in their nature. Turnovers conceded 19-8. This is one of the few games this week from Super Rugby Pacific where the team which has coughed up the ball has managed to go on and win. Pretty much every other game we've seen the team which has been looking that little bit rustier has lost, but the Brumbies still managed to get it done, which maybe bodes well that the Brumbies can do even better if they can improve the handling and security of their own ball. Their line-out was 9 from 13, so they did clean it up a bit from that first half, so I think it was pretty much 100% in the second half. Force were 10 from 12. Brumbies made 145 tackles to 76 at 89%. The Force is 92, so the percentages are pretty similar, but the Brumbies made a lot more tackles in this game. Penalty count finishes 10 apiece. Tom Wright, as I mentioned, man of the match, 60 run meters, 2 clean breaks, 3 defenders beaten. Looks pretty deadly. Scott, what's his first name? Is it Rory? Or is that a golfer? I don't know. Whoever Scott is, the flanker, I forget his first name, 19 from 19 tackles, gets a try. That's a pretty good shift. I'll learn his name next week. No disrespect meant, just a bad memory. Kyle Goblin, 10 from 10 tackles. I know his name. 72 run meters, 2 defenders beaten. So he's the top run meter guy. He's the top tackler for the Force. He always puts in a huge effort, that man, even if it's in a losing effort this week. Next week is Rebels Force and Brumbies Drua. So, yeah, some interesting looking fixtures for next week. But this, as I said, was a pretty pleasing watch. If you haven't watched this game, you'll certainly get some enjoyment out of watching it. There are some good tries, some pretty good moments, some pretty nice weather. So, yeah, decent start to the Super Rugby Pacific season. You guys let me know your thoughts on the game, and I will talk to you guys again soon. See you later.